Entrepreneur and visionary business leader J. Barton, better known as Bart Simmons, graduated magna cum laude from Lamar University while lettering 3 years in football. He served as president of the Student Government Association and was a member of the Students for Free Enterprise. He credits his time at Lamar with sparking a lifelong interest in economics and resource management. In 1992, Simmons, armed with a Bachelor of Business Administration degree in finance and a Master's of Business Administration degree from Lamar, founded his own business. Today, the privately held TriStar companies, co-founded by Simmons, do business in the western half of the United States and have revenues of $120 million a year. Later, as CEO of Texas Power, he navigated the complexities of the electric grid and gained statewide recognition for customer satisfaction and performance. His privately held BESS Investments Company, founded in 2003, provides grass-fed, all-natural beef to the market through effective ranch operations and modern management processes. The firm's other portfolio assets are geared to agricultural companies focusing on healthy living, innovation, and technology. He is a strong believer in giving back to his community and served on the board of directors of Wesley Rankin Community Center as chairman of the board of stewards of Lovers Lane United Methodist Church. He and his wife, Marty Scully Simmons, also a Lamar graduate, accounting, 19 whatever, funded that later in the 1990s, exactly. Funded the Vernon Glass Field of Champions practice field, the John Payton Academic Success Center at Lamar. They've also founded the Patricia and George Scully Scholarship in Business and the Marty and Bart Simmons Endowment in Business. Simmons stays connected to Lamar in many ways, as a member of the Board of Advisors of the College of Business and as a trustee of the Lamar University Foundation. He was inducted into the College of Business Hall of Fame in 2013, and the university honored Simmons in 2008 as a distinguished alumni. It is my pleasure, and indeed my distinct honor, to introduce our commencement speaker today, Mr. Bart Simmons.
President Evans, administration and faculty, distinguished guests, friends and family, and most of all, the Lamar University class of 2013, I'm extremely honored to be here. It is a privilege to be with you on your special day. In November, Dr. Evans shared his vision for the university at his investiture. This summer, my wife and I met Dr. Evans for the first time. In the conversation, we informed Dr. Evans that 2 of our sons had graduated from the University of Oklahoma Price College of Business while he was dean. Without missing a beat, Dr. Evans said, "Please tell me they are both gainfully employed." Folks, we have a man leading our university with a vision and a deep personal desire for results. We are in good hands. And yes, both sons are gainfully employed. I love the fact that Lamar is associated with an event that changed the world. Not many universities have such a distinction. If you Google Spindletop, you will be amazed at what comes up. Let me paraphrase a couple of my recent web searches. The discovery of Spindletop had an almost incalculable effect on world history. Spindletop revolutionized American manufacturing. Spindletop, the boom that shook the world. And in any search for Spindletop, consistently, Lamar University's name comes up. Our university had the foresight to treasure the history and embrace the spirit of Spindletop with the creation of the Spindletop Gladys City Boomtown Museum. Lamar will always be associated with the Gusher. Now, not nearly as profound, but oddly interesting, are the following events that happened while I was a student here at Lamar. Did you know that Lamar, along with Rice, Stephen F. Austin, and UT, were at the forefront of streaking at Texas universities during the 70s? This breezy fad hit Lamar on March the 5th, 1974, when a couple of frat boys streaked around Gentry Hall. Well, not to be undone, the football players did a group streak 2 days later. We like to think of that as the first Lamar flash mob dance, except there were no clothes and no dancing. I am so glad there were no iPhones back then. The second event actually would make a great Jeopardy show final question. The category, collegiate sports. The question, what university football team was the first to play games in 2 dome stadiums in the same season? If you guessed Lamar University, you win and advance to the next round of Jeopardy. In 1975, Lamar played the University of Houston in the Astrodome and Southern Mississippi in the Superdome to be the first. So take that, Alex Trebek, and hashtag Peckham. I always enjoy being back on campus. So many memories of my college days start flooding my mind. Like hanging out in the Setzer Center, falling in love with my wife, all the football games, and throwing a live squawking chicken into the living room of one of the sorority dorms. However, one memory that does not come back, and that is who actually gave the commencement address at my graduation. Most commencement speeches are all about advice, and that's probably why I have no recollection of it. Well, my plan today is not to give you advice. You are a captive audience, and that seems really unfair. Instead, I'd like to tell a few stories and allow you to draw your own conclusions. In 1973, I had the opportunity to visit several universities as a recruit to play collegiate football. I had letters of interest from a dozen schools, and I settled on 3 recruitment visits, one to Baylor, one to USL, and one to Lamar. I had no connection to any of these universities, no Baylor dad or Cardinal mom. My family actually lived in Alabama at the time. Let me say this, more than any university needing me on the football field, I needed a scholarship. This was going to be the way I was going to pay for college. The Lamar coach that recruited me was John Payton, a true Texas sports icon. Coach Payton was the university's first black coach. I doubt Coach Payton even remembers recruiting me, but I remember him. He was a man of integrity and truthfulness, a real gentleman. Coach Payton sent me a handwritten letter dated February the 12th, 1973. It might seem like a small thing, but to a 17-year-old high school senior, it made a big impression on me. I had a couple of scholarship offers, but because of Coach Payton, I signed with Lamar. I keep a photo of that letter on my cell phone today. To set the stage for my next story, we need to openly acknowledge the true economic situation we find ourselves in today. Unlike graduates of the 1990s, we are in uncertain times. Persistent high unemployment and a lingering recession are creating obstacles to finding jobs, or at least that perfect job. According to the Bureau of Labor, the labor participation rate hit a 35-year low this year. 35 years ago, I was handed my diploma here on campus in McDonald Gym. In 1978, that year, we had high unemployment as well as very high inflation. They actually published back then the misery index, which was the unemployment rate and the inflation factor added together. So class of 2013, we have something in common, graduating during very uncertain times. Yet neither one of us had as much uncertainty as did Maggie Lena Walker. Maggie's mom was a former slave. When Maggie was about 9 years old, her father was killed, leaving Maggie, her brother, and her mother in poverty. Her mom started a laundry business out of her home just to make ends meet. Maggie, at an early age, helped her mom by picking up and delivering laundry. Later in life, Maggie summed up her early years with this often quoted remark: "I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth, but with a laundry basket on my head." Dennis Kimbrough describes Maggie Lena Walker's plight in his book, The Wealth Choice, like this. At the turn of the 20th century, Walker was not a promising candidate for success by any measure. She was penniless in a world that valued wealth, a female in a society that favored males, a woman of color who sought riches in an arena where skin color mattered the most. In 1903, before women even had the right to vote, Walker became the first woman, black or white, to charter a U.S. bank. Amazingly, Walker managed to keep the bank alive during the Great Depression by merging it with two other Richmond, Virginia banks. And yes, she served as chairman of the board. I love Maggie's boldness. It reminds me of the Henry Ford quote, "You can't build a reputation on what you're going to do." As someone who has started several businesses, I love Maggie's entrepreneurial spirit. It just kind of resonates with me. And it provides a great intro into my last story. Could you imagine the high or just how pumped up you would be if the company you had started had a commercial during the Super Bowl? Let me back up and provide some context. My company was almost destroyed when Enron Corporation declared bankruptcy on December the 2nd, 2001. At that time, this bankruptcy was the largest in our nation's history. With the Enron bankruptcy, almost everything we had built in our first 10 years of business was just vaporized. I remember calling my wife and telling her, "We're toast." In complete crisis mode, I called our bankers and informed them we were going to break all of our loan covenants. The next calls were to our top customers to let them know there would be delays in some of our payments. While the bankruptcy case played out in New York, the criminal cases against Enron executives played out in Houston. It was doubtful that Enron would have any remaining assets to ever pay us the money they owed us. There's an old cowboy saying, "Set your pace by your distance." We had no idea what our distance was in this situation. It was hard to set a pace, much less move forward. We were somewhat just frozen and kept asking ourselves, how did the seventh largest company in the U.S. go bankrupt owing us so much money? But playing the victim was not going to pay our bills. We had to do something. We had to move. So with limited funds and a shell of a company, we started several new business ventures, one of which was Texas Power, a retail electric company. By 2007, we were making major headway in the competitive electric marketplace. In the 2008 Super Bowl game, the Giants beat the Patriots by a score of 17-14. This game is regarded as one of the biggest upsets in the history of sports. Jordan Sparks, the youngest winner of American Idol, sang the national anthem. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers performed the halftime show. And Texas Power, my Texas Power, had a commercial during the game. Lamar graduates of 2013, your future begins today. And I'm going to leave you with a hope and a prayer. My hope is that when you think of prosperity, you will think large and way beyond financial gains. Think more in terms of choosing your own destiny and living out your own God-given potential. In my prayer, I pray that you never forget the small things, like a pat on the back, a hug, or a handwritten letter. They make a difference to someone. 40 years ago, Coach Payton's letter to me sure did. I pray that you have Maggie Lena Walker's mojo. Don't let any obstacle or uncertainty stand in your way. And I pray that you never let current circumstances determine what you can do. Remember, each day is a new starting point. I thank God there was a Super Bowl after Enron for me. Lamar University class of 2013, congratulations and Godspeed.